Welcome to Missouri Law Matters, a podcast all about your Missouri courts. I'm your host, Matt Hamner. I'm a judge on the Missouri Court of Appeals in the Southern District in Springfield, Missouri. If you've been enjoying our podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe to us and all those places where you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify. If you'd like to see us in person as we're videotaping these podcasts, be sure to check us out on YouTube and also on Spotify. And also don't forget to like and subscribe to the Supreme Court of Missouri's Facebook and Instagram pages, where you're going to get all sorts of wonderful information about our courts and information about our upcoming podcast episodes. Feel free to drop us any questions or comments that you might have, things we're doing well, things maybe you want to hear about in the future. I think most folks know that Missouri is home to numerous military facilities and bases, both associated with our United States military as well as our Missouri National Guard. What I think a lot of people don't know is the unique issues that can be created by having active military members in our state courts, as well as having private citizens interact with folks on military installations. These issues can pop up in all sorts of cases: criminal cases, civil cases, family law cases, and almost every aspect of our legal system. To talk with me about those issues and anything else that we can think of to talk about today, I have a great guest. Joining me today is Judge Kevin Hillman. He is an Associate Circuit Judge in Pulaski County, Missouri, and one of the newest judges that we have in our state. Judge Hillman, welcome to the pod. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Now, Judge, in addition to your current position as Associate Circuit Judge in Pulaski County, you also hold a rank and a position with the Missouri National Guard. What is that?
Well, I'm a colonel with the National Guard. I've been in National Guard for about 20 years, and I'm the staff judge advocate for the Army side of the house. So the air side has a staff judge advocate, and I'm the Army side. So I'm basically the chief lawyer for the Army, and I'm a traditional guardsman, which we call M-Day, which means I do the 2 weeks a year and 1 week in a month, although my 2 weeks are usually split up. And then just a long time ago, I was on active duty for 5 years here at Fort Leonard Wood. So that's how I actually ended up in Pulaski County, I was stationed here.
Outstanding. And in that role, the role that you currently have, what are your responsibilities? What are you doing? Tell our listeners about what that entails.
Yeah, so I basically supervise. We have 19 Army judge advocates in the Missouri Army National Guard. If anybody's interested in joining, please give me a call. We're always looking for great lawyers to be citizen soldiers. And most of our lawyers are traditional guardsmen who do the 2 weeks a year, 1 week in a month type activities. And we have people from all walks of life. We have people in private practice. We have an attorney that works for legal aid. We have several elected prosecuting attorneys. We have several judges. And we do have 3 full-time folks who work for us up in Jeff City that are there 5 days a week. And technically they're what are called technicians. So they're a federal employee during the day, but they wear a uniform. And then, of course, on the weekends, they're traditional guardsmen as well. So we have those folks. They keep me in line and help me out because, of course, I'm here and a lot of the business is going on during the week. We had a great session a couple weeks ago at the University of Missouri Law School with their Veterans Law Clinic. They had Army Day, and so they had us in along with some active duty folks. I can say, honestly, I have had a wonderful career in the National Guard. I have been to places I never would have dreamed of being, some of which are great, some of which are not so great. But, I've been to Germany, I've been to Kuwait, I've been to El Salvador, I've been all over the country. I think I'm probably getting to go to Panama here shortly, which is in the news, but that's our partnership country. So we do have a lot of missions to Panama that Missouri does. So I have just been all over the place, gotten to do things I never would have dreamed of doing in my civilian life. So it's been a fun ride. And it's great. It's great in my current role because I interact really well with the folks out on Fort Leonard Wood because I speak Army, I talk Army, I know what they mean. And of course, from the military justice side of the house, I understand that procedure pretty well. And sometimes it serves me well when I have soldiers come in my courtroom or in my prior life as a prosecutor and they tell me something. I'm like, that's not right. I don't think you're telling me the truth about that. That doesn't sound like what should happen. I do the Veterans Treatment Court here in Pulaski County. I really enjoy doing that and helping veterans. I think they like having a judge that's a veteran.
It sounds like you have worn a lot of hats over the course of your legal career. Tell us a little bit about your path to finding the law first, and then finding the military, and then finding your way to the bench.
Well, I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the suburbs of Cincinnati, and I liked lawyers. When I was in undergrad, I kind of said, I think I want to be a lawyer. I ended up getting an ROTC scholarship and did that. So I owed the Army 4 years, and actually I had a nomination to go to West Point as well. Well, so it kind of came down to if I wanted to be a lawyer, could I do that after I graduate from West Point? Well, at that time, and I don't know what it is now, at that time they said, no, you have to do your 4 years of service prior to doing that. Then you can apply to the JAG Corps. ROTC said you can apply for an educational delay after you're done and go to law school. And so that's why I chose the ROTC side, which paid for my undergraduate. So I was lucky. I did apply for a educational delay, and of course I had to be admitted to law school, so I had done all that. I interned some while I was in undergrad. It's kind of surprising. I always think about the story. I interned at a, a personal injury law firm in Lexington, Kentucky, and I remember going to court one day, and we got there kind of early, and I remember seeing the prosecutor. She had this huge stack of files. I thought, I don't know that I want to do that. That looks kind of not like fun. And like these guys are over here doing these big cases, but they just got one case. And then when I went to law school and I went to the University of Cincinnati, I got a job at the local prosecutor's office in Butler County, Ohio, which is just north of Cincinnati. I tell people it's like St. Charles County to St. Louis County. That's where I was from, and I loved it. I absolutely loved the first day I was there. The investigators took me back, showed me a bunch of gruesome crime pictures. These old crusty retired cops. They're like, "What do you think of this?" And I was like, "They look horrible." And they're like, "Do they make you sick?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Okay, you can stay." And I had a great group of guys that I worked with. They were young prosecutors. We would go out to the scenes. I still have a suit coat that everyone will go, "Hey, your sleeves ripped." I'm like, "Well, there's a story behind that." I was in law school and we were out at a crime scene and there was a barbed wire fence and it had caught my suit coat. And I was like, I don't want to throw the suit out because it's a good suit. It just has these three big nicks in it. And then, we were out at these crime scenes. I really liked it. Ohio has a similar thing to Rule 13. I had a license to do that. I actually did 4 jury trials prior to graduating from law school. I had a better record as a law student than I do as a regular attorney because I was 4-0 there. I can't say that for being when I was a real prosecutor. So I did it, loved it. And of course, when I graduated from law school, the Army said, "Hey, you owe us 4 years." And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, you can go to Fort Sill, Fort Leonard Wood, or Korea." My wife was like, "Let's go look at Fort Leonard Wood." So we drove out here. It was Thanksgiving time. We stayed at Lake of the Ozarks because there was no hotel rooms here. And we were like, okay, we can do this. This is closer to home than Fort Sill. And so that's how I got to go to Fort Leonard Wood. I did legal assistance. I ran the tax center on Fort Leonard Wood. And then I got to be an Army prosecutor, which is called a trial counsel. And I really enjoyed that. I prosecuted a number of court martials. My brigade that I was responsible for was one of the basic training brigades. So I typically dealt with drill sergeant misconduct. And then I got to be what's called a special assistant U.S. attorney. So Fort Leonard Wood, kind of a unique thing, is like a federal island in the middle of Missouri. There is no state jurisdiction except for very limited things. So any crime that's committed on Fort Leonard Wood has to go through the federal court system. And the federal court system has a thing called the Assimilated Crimes Act, which if they don't have a federal crime for it, they just assimilate Missouri. So I was basically prosecuting a lot of Missouri traffic cases on Fort Leonard Wood, but in federal court. And to include felonies, if we had a couple felony DWIs, and you would have to go take the pleas down in federal court in Springfield. And I got to know a lot of the local attorneys that way because I was basically the traffic prosecutor. They were coming for plea offers, and then I was prosecuting. We did the shopliftings at the PX, and like I said, every once in a while we'd have some sort of serious crime. If it was too serious, the guys at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Springfield handled it. We wanted to stay. We liked living here. I like to golf, fish, hunt. This is like Mecca for that. We even had bought a little trailer up at Lake of the Ozarks. And so we ended up staying. I worked in a private firm for a couple of years, and then I became the city attorney for St. Robert. And I actually became the municipal judge for the city of Waynesville. I was the city attorney for St. Robert, and it was an interesting practice because I got to do a lot of economic development things. Sometimes when you're a lawyer, you're always fighting with people. You're always in a kind of a conflict. Well, when you're doing economic development, you're helping people. I really liked it. And usually the attorneys I was working with, we were working together to try to get a development going or get a TIF in there. And so I really enjoyed that. I was really enjoying my job. I think being a prosecutor is one of the toughest jobs in the legal field. Everything comes to you in the county. I had to deal with roads, crimes, murders, people mad about their taxes, employee issues within the county. I think, Pulaski County is the largest third-class county in Missouri by population. When you're the county prosecutor, it all just comes to your office. And it was tough. I was really lucky that I had really wonderful people that worked for me.
And what a path! And it's typical of so many of the guests that we've had on to this point have had such varied paths to finding the law and finding the bench. And your story is one of fascinating, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about it today. I do want to go back and talk to you about a couple of things in the process as you kind of came along. When you left active duty military and then you took the private practice job here locally in Missouri, what was that transition like? What was the transition like from being a military attorney to working in private practice here in Missouri?
Well, it's different. I had seen civilian law when I worked at the prosecutor's office in Ohio, and I had been to court down here several times with things, so I knew kind of how it worked, but it's certainly different. I enjoyed doing defense work. The one thing you forget about is that people do appreciate what you do when you help them out. And I always enjoyed that. I got to go to different counties. I think at one point I'd been up to like 20 different counties. So it's fun to go to different counties and kind of see how things work. You got to know the people there and the judges. So, and one thing that was great about the guard is I know people all over Missouri that I would never know because I meet them in the guards. So I'd get to see those guys too. I went from active duty straight into the guard. So that was a plus because I was already trained.
Do you think that your being part of the guard and staying in contact with the guard helped the transition into civilian law at all, or did it hurt it?
It helped, especially here, with so many people in the military. I think they trusted me more because they knew I was military. Sometimes military people, when they go places, will think that the local community is out to get them, or trying to, take advantage of them. And I don't think that's the case at all here. There's very few people that you meet here who are like, my family's been in Pulaski County forever. There are a few, but most of the people here are like, dad moved here with the Army and I stayed, or I retired here, or I got out here and stayed, or I married a soldier and stayed. So, of course, when you have a base this size, the community of our size, it's not surprising.
No doubt. And certainly the varied nature and the large number of transplants, folks that you have from all over the country in Pulaski County, certainly makes that community unique. Talk to me a little bit about, from the time that you were a prosecutor there, what were the major differences in handling cases in criminal court in our state court system versus handling those types of cases in a military type system?
If you're a defendant, you want to be in the military system versus the state system because the military system gives you a lot more protections. And I don't mean it that you don't have protections in state court, but a military plea takes all day, whereas, our pleas take 15, 20 minutes if it's done correctly. And they literally go through every possible defense that you can have. And every plea in the military system is an open plea, basically, where you can, you know what the worst case is, but you can beat it. The judge doesn't know what the plea is because you made the deal with the commander, not with the judge. And so it's an interesting system. I've had a number of great SJs at Fort Leonard Wood, excuse me, that I've worked with, and those folks have been full. I always get to know them. It is nice to be able to talk their language and understand what the process is, because I've done that out there, and they appreciate that I understand exactly what's going on with these cases. And then, of course, we have the veterans issues. When I was first prosecutor, we had a case with a retired command sergeant major, spotless career, had never been in trouble in his entire life. I don't think he had a traffic ticket. And the police get called one day. Police get there to have a standoff. And, what do I do with this guy as the prosecutor? I mean, obviously, 4 deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. He has some issues. The wife is like, he's not getting treated for his PTSD. Is there something you could do? I don't want him to go to prison, but I can't have him do this ever again. And so that was what we decided. Really, Judge Long was the driving force behind it. We went and got the training. We were, I think, one of the first couple courts in Missouri to get a veterans treatment court, because that's what that Sergeant Major needed, right, was he needed treatment court. He did not need to go to prison. Judge Russell, who is the founder of Veterans Treatment Court, was actually our trainer. Got to talk to him last year, and he's retired now, but he's just a wonderful man from Buffalo, New York. His bailiff actually is the one who was retired military and said, Judge, maybe there's a different way we can deal with these guys. And he said, yeah, let's do this. Let's try that. And so I have really enjoyed that. In fact, I just did Veterans Treatment Court today. And, almost all the veterans that come into court, they're in a similar situation. They've had some incident where you're like, this is really weird that this person who has this really good history, good record, never been in trouble, and he's doing something, and you come to find out they've got a drinking problem, they've got unresolved PTSD, just a number of things that have come up. And, the great thing is the VA helps us. We have a VA representative come in. She helps them get into treatment that they need. Very rarely do we have anyone that does not successfully complete the program. And then once they do that, very rarely do we have anybody come back. And in fact, several of our mentors are graduates. And one of them, he was one of the worst participants to start with. He did not want to do it. He was like, I don't need this. I don't need this help. And now he is literally one of our mentors. He's gotten into the Canines for Vet program and helps run that. He's like, I was a real jerk when I came in this program. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. So you see that, you hear that, and you appreciate that we have those programs. And we're happy. We take people from other counties. So if anybody's out there in a different county that doesn't have a veterans treatment court, give us a call.
Treatment court programs, some of the best programs that we have, and certainly my experience with Veterans Courts program, they've been exceptional. I know you handle the Veterans Court down there in Pulaski County. Tell the folks who are listening, what are some of the other types of cases that you handle as an associate circuit judge? What do you see on a weekly basis?
I handle the criminal cases at the beginning, felonies at the beginning. So I usually am the one that signs the warrant. I'm usually the one that conducts a preliminary hearing, although we have a grand jury here, so I don't do that. But I am the one that will pick the next grand jury. I do all the misdemeanor cases as well. And then I do what we call civil non-family. So I do collection cases and possessions, small claims cases. I think cases under $25,000. All the DOR title cases, DOR refusal cases. We have another associate judge here. And so when they get mad at him or they're upset with him and they change judge, then I get his divorce cases. So I also do family law. I think the associate does just about everything. And I get assigned felony cases.
Most of our associate circuit judges, they're kind of a jack of all trades, and they always get a lot of really great experience with various types of cases. Now, you've been prosecutor, now a judge in a community that has a large military base there within its borders. And talk to me a little bit about how you've seen having a base affects the community.
Fort Leonard Wood is our economic driver. Almost everybody is either employed at Fort Leonard Wood or employed somewhere that services Fort Leonard Wood, or family members are or something. It's a great thing. I mean, the military, the Army, we do have Marines and Air Force here and Navy. I think people that have a sense of community, this is a very supportive community of the military. You can't get friendlier people. There's a lot of people here who would not normally, I think, would be in rural Missouri, right? They come because of the Army, and they like it here and they stay. And it's a really wonderful community. I think it's a plus, not only for the economic stuff, but just the people it brings to Missouri. Sometimes we talk about where we lose people to the bigger cities because they're better jobs, but because of Fort Leonard, it brings people in here that we have engineers working out there that you would normally have. We have a hospital that you bring in medical folks that you wouldn't normally have in this type of community. So it's just a wonderful thing. And then, Fort Leonard Wood shares some of their resources with us. We have a beautiful 18-hole golf course on Fort Leonard Wood that we probably wouldn't have, but because they built it. The pools, the cities wouldn't have the things they have because the people are spending money here, generating sales tax revenue. So it just makes it a better place. And the people who have come through here, you meet these people and you realize you probably would never have met them except someone in the Army told them they had to come to Fort Leonard Wood. So you get to meet all these different people from all over the world and all over the country. Fort Leonard Wood has a number of NATO officers. I have met officers from Saudi Arabia, Great Britain. We have a couple of British officers that live here in the community, some Australians. are here because their dad's stationed on Fort Leonard Wood as an exchange officer, Canadian officers. And so you get to meet those folks. Where would you normally get that in South Central Missouri? They're only going to be here for a couple of years, but it's really neat to get to know those people and meet them. I really like Fort Leonard Wood. I like the community. I think um, Fort Leonard Wood has a lot to offer. When I first got here, it was known as Fort Lost in the Woods. I came here in 2001. There was not half the stuff that's here now. And I think at one point, Pulaski County was the fourth or fifth fastest growing county in Missouri because of all the people moving here because of the military. And of course, the counties next to us, Phelps and Rolla and Laclede with Lebanon, they support the military too. And a lot of military folks actually live over there too.
Wonderful facilities that they have all over the place. And it's wonderful to be in that community the many times that I've visited that area and to see the pride that everyone has. When you have active duty military folks who are showing up in your court, be it for a criminal case or family law case or a civil collection case or whatever it might be, what types of things are you looking for? What special accommodations do you have to be looking for as a judge when you have folks like that that are appearing on your dockets?
With the civils, you have to think about the Silversmith Civil Relief Act. You have to look and make sure that they want to proceed. So, like on divorce cases, I have a lot of military folks, and we have to make sure that those waivers are processed. Especially a lot of them are military spouses, and they're saying it's a non-contested divorce, right? And I have to go through that file and make sure that waiver's in there because that serviceman has every right to stay those proceedings if they're not able to be here. Along with the collection cases, I will say we don't have a lot of military collection cases. On the criminal side, when I was a prosecutor, we had an agreement with Fort Leonard Wood that we would let them know if we had an active duty soldier that was, committed anything above like a traffic offense. If we have an active duty soldier come in on the criminal side now, I always tell them, hey, you do have legal resources available to you on Fort Leonard Woods. Soldiers themselves, and especially in this community, the younger basic training guys, they're not allowed off very much. So we don't have a wave of those. And then the older, the instructors and the folks that are here and uh, they're not going to be out here because usually they've got their own families. I think they take steps to make sure that nothing gets out of hand.
Well, that's good to hear. And certainly, I think that's helpful information for folks who may be involved in a case, either themselves as a military member or have someone who is a military member who may be involved with their case. Certainly, there have been a lot of advances over the years since you've been a lawyer in technology and communication. Certainly, we have more tools now for our active duty military members to stay in contact with friends and family than we've ever had. Have you seen an impact in this advancements in technology and changing technology in dealing with military members in the court system, either on the military side or on the civil side? Have there been improvements? Are there things that we could be doing better that we aren't?
One of my first court martials I did, there was a number of victims, and there was a victim we couldn't find. He'd been a private, and we finally tracked him down. That he was with a special operations unit in Afghanistan at that time, and so you couldn't do it for trial, but for the Article 32 hearing, we actually had him on Skype, which I think they finally sunsetted. But that was kind of your first video um, communication device, and so we used that. I remember that was pretty revolutionary. That was like in 2004. Certainly have gotten a lot better since then, but yeah, we do utilize, the Supreme Court has the WebEx program that we can use. We sometimes have servicemen who have moved from Fort Leonard Wood, but their case hasn't been done. And, if the parties agree, we will sometimes have them testify from somewhere else. We'll put them on the WebEx. I've had it where both parties have moved away. Their divorce happened here, the child custody orders from here. And of course, now there's issues with it. And I tell them, hey, if you both want to agree to it, I'll let you appear by a video teleconference WebEx. Typically they do. And so that helps them not have to pay for the travel cost to come for a minor hearing.
Well, and technology's impact has certainly been huge in our court system, and I'm glad to hear that you've been able to utilize it to help make things easier for everyone. We've talked a lot today about all the roles that you've played in your legal career and the roles that you still have today, now being an associate judge, now being a colonel in the Missouri National Guard. How do you balance all that?
Well, I mean, you just have to We were just doing that this morning because I was like, the Army wants me to come. I have to take my physical. I found a day I didn't have court because, of course, that's something that has to be done during a week. So you just work with it. And, the National Guard understands that they have people who have other jobs. And so they work with you on that. Probably the most difficult was I was deployed in 2012, 2013, Operation Enduring Freedom to Kuwait. And that was tough because I was the prosecutor. And I was lucky. I had two wonderful people step in for a time to be the acting prosecutor, one of which is Judge Ken Clayton over in Phelps County. He's a judge now. He had been the Phelps County prosecutor. And then when he got appointed judge and Laura Creams, who had been the prosecutor here, stepped in, they came forward and said, hey, we know you're doing this. I've also been able to do it because people have helped me. You just got to make sure you keep your calendar handy. Typically, the great thing about the Guard is they will give you your schedule almost a year in advance. And of course, I have wonderful colleagues who will help me. So it's kind of a combination of planning and then having wonderful people around you, both either working for you or working with you to help you out. I think they know that service is important and they want to contribute as the best they can. And I was really lucky. I had two really good prosecutors step in when I was gone for that year and help me with that. They did a great job.
Well, Judge, I'm certainly appreciative that you do your best to juggle all those things and that you're willing to share your talents with our judiciary and with the people in your community. I've had a great time talking to you today. Last question that I have for you, and this is just something fun. This isn't law related, something I ask everybody kind of as a closing question. What's your favorite thing that you have seen lately? It could be like a movie or a TV show or a sunset or just anything. What have you seen lately that really impressed you?
Well, I was trying to win a fishing tournament at the Big Bass Bash at Lake of the Ozarks. I had not gotten a single bite the entire day. I was getting pretty frustrated. My partner had caught a 5-pound catfish, which was not helpful in a bass tournament. And that was the only bite he'd had. And about 1:30 on Sunday, and we'd been out since 7 in the morning, I caught a 4-pound, 3-ounce bass. And so not only did we at least we didn't get skunked, and at least I can still catch fish. Now the ride to go check it in was pretty rough because it was windy that day. It was about 30-mile-an-hour gusts. So when we came out in the open part of the lake, it was a wild ride, but we had a good time. And so that was kind of highlight of my last couple of weeks was catching that fish.
Well, congratulations. That's quite a catch and a wonderful way to end our chat today. Judge, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. Thank you for your service to our country, and also thank you for being a part of our judiciary. I'm very excited to watch you grow as a judge, and I'm glad to be sharing the bench with you. Judge Hillman, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much to everyone who's been listening and watching us. If you've enjoyed the podcast, like and subscribe wherever you may be watching us, YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Also, don't forget to check us out on social media and Instagram, Facebook for the Supreme Court of Missouri. Drop us some comments. Let us know how we're doing if there's anything you want to hear in the future. With everything covered and nothing else to discuss at this time, the podcast will be adjourned. Thank you, folks. We'll talk to you next time.